Hello everyone, Orabald here. This will likely be a two-part video, um, if I had to guess, but it all depends on how much I can get in 10 minutes. Now, some of you may be aware of a certain individual by the name of Shaun King, who is a columnist for the New York Post. That's his day job. In addition to that, he is also I'd say I'm preferring to cautiously use the term self-proclaimed social activist and civil rights leader. I'm using those two words in cautionarily just based on a couple of things that I'm going to get to in a little bit. But Shaun King is a public figure. For those of you that know him, that have met him, know that he is very eloquent and very highly intelligent and very well informed in terms of the issues of this country and the world at large. Um, all that said, there are a lot of things in regards to um, Shaun King that I agree with, but there are a couple of things regarding him that I do not, both before and after the results of the last week's election, mind you. The problem with this is a certain movement that he started over the summer that I feel is now in danger because of how emotionally invested that I feel that he's become. Not, I wouldn't say it as much in terms of the movement, but in terms of the ugly side of being involved in politics. I feel like he's allowed his emotions to show a little bit too much in that regard, and it's really taking a toll on his judgment. Mind you, I'm going to say, stress again, this is my opinion, but on the one hand, the way I look at it, and I believe I did try to reach out to him through Facebook, which is where he's most active, but in regards to social media, but I feel like for the time being, he should appoint someone else to take point with regard to the injustice boycott movement. And the reason I keep sniffing is because I'm severely dehydrated. But as an individual, I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. But there are a couple of areas that he is lacking. Specifically, I mean, yeah, specifically, there are a couple of areas that I feel he's lacking, and I'm being very careful that I make sense. But I just think it's very interesting that a guy that really prides himself on speaking for the people seems to have no problem baiting arguments with folks on Facebook. I mean, he's followed by several 100,000 people from across the country and around the world. And for a guy that is a public figure, a journalist, and has spoken at colleges, universities, and different functions all over the country, seems to be able to have no problem making time to troll people, or to be the troll, or basically dismiss the opinions of anyone and everyone who even slightly disagrees with him. And I feel like, it's one thing if the person isn't making a whole lot of sense or isn't trying to make a whole lot of sense and they're just bashing you and everything, you, your family, and everything that you stand for. But when someone decides to take the time to actually try to have an eloquent or a concerted effort to have a conversation with you, to just completely blow them off, like I have seen Mr. King do over and over and over again in the last few months that I have been following his his Facebook activities. It's very interesting. I mean, in regards to the injustice boycott movement, as far as I'm aware, he is the only person that really knows what's going on in terms of organization and all that. And if there are others, I honestly don't know. I am aware that of a few dozen folks that have reached out to help organize things, but it sounds like things are going pretty slow in that regard for reasons I don't know. Now that the 45th president of the United States is confirmed, I alluded to this a little bit in the video I recorded earlier this evening, but I see this as a moment of opportunities for the cause, or I should say, the causes of those who have been dealing with discrimination across this country, not just racially, but in regards to sexual gender identity, sexual orientation, Semitism, um, status, religion, etc., and so forth and so on. The Trump presidency is an opportunity, and like several hundred people have said, or I should say, tried to say to him through Facebook, and he just completely blew them off, saying, "This is what's best for the country. We don't want to know what'll happen. You don't want to know what'll happen if Trump wins." And it's like, dude, it'll be much easier for people to. It'll be much easier. It'll be much easier to get the media on your side, and you should know this as a journalist yourself. It'll be much easier. It'll be much more meaningful um, for if you're gonna be a civil rights leader, it'll be much more to your favor to be the underdog. I mean, if you want to take ownership, it's to your advantage to have Donald Trump as the president for the country. It'll be much easier for you to gain support, international support, and that's going to be extremely important moving forward. That's the way I'm looking at it. Politically, he originally backed Bernie Sanders, but when the Democratic Party torpedoed Sanders' campaign from the beginning and made sure he never had a chance, what did the homeboy do? He backed Hillary Clinton. The very definition of establishment and the very person who, aside from what she's publicly said, the kind of person that is just gonna cause nothing but deadlock. so yeah, I think I left this out of my previous video, but I'm pretty sure he knows as well as I do, and a lot of other folks, that Trump is just a figurehead, just like Bush 43 was, for the most part. And the folks that are going to do the real decision making are the people that are around Donald Trump. That's basically what's going to happen. And I feel like if Shaun King, if you're smart, you would position yourself, you would put yourself in a position where you or people whose interests align with yours are in a position of power, of folks that would be able to influence things in government, because that's the direction the progressives need to be moving in, as far as I'm concerned. Personally, I don't consider Shaun King a progressive, but that's a story. In terms of the difference between progressives, liberals, and conservatives, I'm gonna say that for another video. But change is not going to happen overnight, and I feel that's the problem that conservatives, liberals, and progressives, and everyone in between. I feel like that's the thing that a lot of folks have an unrealistic expectation in regards. Like, a lot of folks are expecting change to happen right away. It would be great if you could just wave a magic wand and make all that stuff happen, just magically just go. But that's not how the world works. You got to be patient, and you have to have a level head, and you can't just have knee-jerk reactions. I definitely do understand for a person in Shaun King's position that he's opened himself up there mostly as a journalist and as a human being. That I'm pretty sure he's not exaggerating when he said that he gets hundreds and thousands of letters from concerned Americans daily. It's not an easy thing to have to deal with, to have to go through a lot of the stuff that the only other folks I can think of that can really relate to what he's going through, what he has to deal with. I'm pretty sure are politicians, well, those that care, I should say, and maybe attorneys that care, a handful of other professions. But I understand more than anything, and I understand fully that he's in a very difficult position in regards to that, and he has a moral responsibility to make sure that all these people, that their voices are heard. I understand that fully. But the problem that I see at the same time is I feel like he's gotten a little bit too emotionally involved, whereas he's not. emotionally separating himself from one. On the one hand, yeah, you got to get the story out as a for for moralistic and journalistic integrity and all that. But on the other hand, you can't allow yourself to get as emotionally involved in things as he has been. I mean, it's the main reason why I feel very strongly about the fact that Shaun King needs to appoint someone else or several someone's to take point in regards to the injustice boycott movement, because I feel like it's not so much a conflict of interest, but it's just a conflict of mindsets in regards to him. Because on the one hand, yes, he is, well, I should say he considers himself a civil rights activist, but on the other hand, he is also a journalist, and those two things right there, historically, there should not be overlap. But it'll be very interesting to see how it's very interesting to see how he's going to be able to separate the two things. Shaun King, the journalist, and Shaun King, the activist, because so far I haven't really seen him really make a much effort to differentiate between those two. But in my case, it's more of a wait, we'll see kind of a situation. But in regards to the movement that he started, I feel like he should put someone else or several someone's in charge of that to just take points, even just more of a figurehead sort of a position. But as far as I know, he hasn't really named anyone he hasn't really named anyone else to be part of the movement, or any other public figures or any other individuals, and I feel like that's a bit of a problem. I mean, I have no problem taking that role on, depending on what I may or may not be doing in the next few months. I mean, I'm not doing anything right now that would prevent me from doing that, but I feel like he said, since he announced that the Justice Boycott movement was going to start on December 5th, that we would spend the 10 weeks between when he first announced it in December 5th, planning and organizing. And I haven't really been seeing a whole lot of that. In short, I feel like he's doing too much on his own right now. And Mr. Sean, if you're reading this, I'm just being real with you. I mean, no disrespect, but dude, you're doing too much. You're doing too much right now, and I feel like at this point you have too many things going on right now to really focus on all of them well. And feel like we're at the point now where you need to start appointing people to start taking on a lot of the stuff that you're doing on your own at this point. Man, I'm just a little dehydrated, but I feel like we're at the point now, just in regards to civil rights activism, etc. in general, where the ball's in our court. A Trump presidency, that's an opportunity right there. I mean, just thinking about it. I mean, Donald Trump said a lot of things that the media is pressuring. I should say half the media is pressuring him to backtrack on. But um, it's just an opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of fear mongering going on right now from all sides. And Mr. King, if you were smart, you would not be adding to that. You don't need to. I mean, let the media do it. Let national media do your job for you. That's how you. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, it's not that hard. Just let them do the job. Just let them do the work for you. Then you can just, if you want to talk about this privately, I can give you my email address since my cell phone's broken. But we can definitely talk about this. But yeah, it's very fascinating times we're in right now, and I'm pretty sure with the tone that I struck with the last few messages that I've said posted on Shaun King's feed, that a lot of people that I expected this to be a lot more negative, a lot more condescending, a lot more confrontational. I'm like, I'm above all that. I mean, I've had a pretty interesting, I'd say, the last 12, 14 years. I ain't got the need to do all that anymore. I mean, I've been through much in life, personally, professionally, and socially, to really get into all that too much. And yeah, finally. But I feel like obviously, yes, we want to make sure that folks who are at great risk of being ostracized. I mean, I agree. I share his concern with the chief of staff and the other guy, chief of staff, and Secretary General, the two appointees that were announced. I am very concerned with those two choices as well that were announced today. And I share in his concern. I share in Shaun King's concern in that regard because that's the way I'm looking at it. That's going to ensure that Donald Trump, I feel like, well, I shouldn't say ensure, but increases the likelihood that Donald Trump will not make it through all 4 years. I mean, the United Nations has been, a lot of the media has been doing a pretty great job of not really talking about this, but the United Nations has been monitoring the civil rights concerns of this country um, since 2014. So those of us that are on the side, a lot of those of us that feel like we're alone and not being heard, the eyes of the world are watching America. I mean, America prides itself on being on America prides itself on leading the way in terms of standing for freedom and all that other nonsense that it likes to say but not actually do. But the whole world is watching, and we will be held to account in the eyes of the world, and as well as the eyes of its people, in terms of whether it will live up to whether it will actually hold fast to its core beliefs. Not what the fringe elements on both the left and the right say, but at its core, we'll see what happens. I had another train of thought that I wanted to keep going with, but I'm gonna say that for another video. 'Cause, yeah. So pretty much just wrap this video up, Mr. King. You can consider me an ally, depending on how you want to slice it. I mean, I'm not gonna put any conditions on my cooperation with you, but we definitely do need to talk. We need to touch base with each other. I feel like we can share a couple of we can share ideas, and we can definitely talk about the things we don't agree on, as well as the things that we obviously do, and we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna put the brakes on this video and leave it at this. And for folks that are new to my channel, feel free to check out my older videos. More videos will come throughout the rest of this month. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody. Stay safe, and um, please don't do anything crazy.